Good morning, vinyl community. This is going to be a new kind of segment for me. Just kind of chatting about music rather than necessarily showing vinyl finds. And first of all, in the background we have one of my favorite new age musicians, Jean-Michel Jarre. It's his, what year was it? 1978 release, Equinox. And I just love his music, and it's gonna be good for the background while we're chatting here. But I have a question I would like to pose to the vinyl community, because I know in the vinyl community there's a fair number of people that also explore other formats, whether it's CDs or cassettes, or some people even do reel-to-reel tapes, which is crazy. Crazy cool, by the way. Crazy cool. Excuse me. But I'm more curious right now, because I already, have stepped back into the arena of CDs since I found my 200 CD changer, which I keep mentioning the fact that I got it for $9.99. I still can't believe it, and that will go down in history as one of my best purchases. Yeah, but my question is, I'm very curious about cassettes. I feel a lot of nostalgia towards cassettes. I had I think most people had actually a Sony Walkman, and I mean they were huge, and I would like to get my hands on one again if I could get it inexpensively. It's just a. Can you imagine if I walked into the gym with holding a Sony Walkman? That'd be cool. Yeah, I'm just wondering, for those of you in the vinyl community that do have other collections of music in other formats, in particular cassettes, how do cassettes fit into your collection? Because I've been trying to wrap my mind around how I can realistically or logically fit cassettes back into my collection and not just feel like I'm, being nostalgic. Sure, there's a lot of nostalgia there, but I want there to be more reasoning behind it than just nostalgia. Because nostalgia is more of an emotion, really, and I guess I'm looking for a logical reason to do it. I will tell a very brief story. I thought I found a dual cassette deck at a local thrift store. Actually, they're a chain, I guess. It's like a super thrift store called Savers. They had a dual tape deck for $6.99, and I was like, wow. And I've been eyeing that thing for, they've had it there, I think, a couple months that I've seen. So finally I was like, well, you know what, $6.99, I can just add it to my unit, and in a sense of completion, and then I could just dabble in cassettes just here and there. But then I got there, and it turned out it was a very specific tape deck for a particular Sony stereo system. Because I looked on the back, and it had this strange, like, flat cable. I'm not sure of the technology, but a flat cable that goes from one unit to the other, and I saw it was connected to this other, a synthesizer. I'm not sure what that means, but it had like numbered buttons on it, It was a synthesizer, which looked like a stereo receiver, but then at the same time it didn't. But anyway, I had this cable connecting the two, and it had no other connections, and I was like, oh, well, that's intended for, you know, that specific unit, and not, in other words, I couldn't take that Sony tape deck and hook it to, you know, a Pioneer stereo receiver. It just wouldn't happen that way, because it didn't have the universal connections on the back. So I was very, very disappointed, especially because my first stop before that, I went to the Mary S. Roberts Pet Adoption Center thrift shop, and I picked up some tapes. And I'll get more into these in a moment, because it kind of explains the reasoning I've come to for cassettes. But basically, yeah. So my question is, how do cassettes fit into your collection? Do you, I don't know. Do you try and get like all your favorite stuff in like every format? Do you get things that you can't find on vinyl on cassette? I don't know. What's your reasoning? I'd love to hear it. But as I was trying to wrap my mind around dabbling in cassettes, I'm loving the music, by the way. Jean-Michel Jarre. It's spelled Jean-Michel Jarre, but Jean, spelled pronounced Jean-Michel Jarre. It's French. But yes, here's my reasoning. First of all, cassettes are dirt cheap. So these were, they would have been 25 cents each, which even that is like ridiculously cheap. But they were having a half price sale, so they were 12.5 cents each. So those 8 cassettes were $1. So I'm very pleased about that, especially because I don't have my tape deck yet. I'm gonna have to keep an eye out at the Goodwills and whatnot for tape decks. I did find another one that I'm still considering, but it's more than I wanted to invest in cassettes, basically. It's a dual tape deck. I want to say it's a Kenwood for $20, and it appears to work. So, but I don't know. It's kind of more than I was wanting to spend. But anyway, here's my reasoning. I don't think anyone can argue that music sounds better on a cassette. I just don't think that's something that can be argued. Out of all the formats, you know, it's probably the worst sounding. I mean, it's been years, possibly decades, since I even listened to a cassette. But I remember, you know, there's that, you have the hiss, although, you know, with some equipment it really can minimize that. But my reasoning is, and again, we're just chatting, so, you know, if I'm repeating myself, that's fine. What would I want to hear that would sound acceptable, you know, and wouldn't require the highest fidelity? And the answer is, you know, spoken word stuff. And the first thing that came to mind, because one thing I enjoy collecting in vinyl is, well, specifically Bill Cosby, but in more general terms, stand-up comedy. I think that is one area that kind of makes sense on cassette for me. Um, yeah, so basically spoken word seems to make a lot of sense to me, whether it's stand-up comedy, books on tape, plays, you know, whatever, lectures, that sort of thing. So that kind of makes sense to me. Plus, I understand, I'm just in my very brief research, there is sort of an underground music scene that specializes in tapes. Like, there's some indie labels that specialize in tapes and putting out, you know, sort of underground music on tapes, because they're so easy to reproduce that way and inexpensive. So I'm kind of curious about that, and that's actually music, but I figure, you know, it would be a good and expensive way to kind of check out the underground music scene and maybe see some, you know, up-and-coming bands and kind of discover them for myself. So I'm kind of curious about that, but my primary interest is definitely like spoken word. So I'll kind of quickly go through these here. Actually, the first three are actually music, and these I bought. Well, the first one I bought just because when I was into tapes, I loved getting samplers or, you know, compilations. For me, it was a great way to discover music and have a variety of music on my Walkman as I rode the bus to work, or sometimes even walked to work in the snow. Yeah, so this first one, and it's sealed, is Take a Hit, EPA. EPA is the Epic Portrait Associated. And it just has a variety of bands. Europe, Alexander O'Neill, I haven't heard of him. Cheap Trick, gotta love that. Beja, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Till Tuesday, love them. Sherelle, Survivor, love them. Two Live Crew, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Living Color, Indigo Girls, Workforce, haven't heard of them. The Radiators, Choir Boys, Slammin' Watusis, Rain People, haven't heard of them, and Michelle Camilo. It sounds like a really, really eclectic mix. And I love that. I love that. And it's sealed. So, I was curious to find that one. This next one, I've never seen a compilation of them. So with this, I kind of have in mind, if I can't find something on vinyl, or I've never seen it on vinyl, I can kind of use the cassette as a placeholder, because I'm very curious here. I love Henry Mancini, and then I have a Doc Severinsen album. He did music, I think, on one of those late night talk shows, I believe. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so Brass on Ivory, that seems like it'll be pretty cool. And then the last one, this one's going to take two hands, actually, because it has some sort of packaging error. It has the track listing on the front. Oops, and then we have that, and that's fine. The cassette. But then what appears to be the front is on the inside. So the way it's done, the front is on the inside, but it's switched on Brandenburg's The Complete Concertos by Wendy Carlos. I love Wendy Carlos, and I did not hesitate to grab this cassette. I was very excited to find this. And I think this is a kind of music, she has early Moog-based electronic music, and she's known for or arranging classical music on the Moog, basically. For those that don't know, the Moog is an early synthesizer. So, yeah. So I was excited to pick this up, even though it has the, packaging error there, but that's still cool. So that was it as far as music. And then, one area I mentioned getting into, and again this is inserted incorrectly, but is books on tape. And this is actually Roald Dahl reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, 68 minutes. So I'm very excited about that. This is definitely something, this is along the lines of what I'm thinking of as far as, cassettes would be good for this, spoken word stuff. And then stand-up comedy. I'm not a big fan of Jeff Foxworthy. I think his humor tends to be very targeted to a more specific audience, but I figured I'd pick it up. I might get 1 or 2 laughs out of it. And these next 3 I'm very curious about, and I'd like to pick up ones that I'm missing. It's Ruby, volumes 2, 3, and 4, episodes 21 to 65. And judging by the cover, it looks like it's some kind of sci-fi. I don't know if it's a radio play or... Yeah, I've never heard of this, but I was excited to find 3 of these. And yeah, it looks like it's just little short audio plays or something. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this before, but it looks pretty cool. I'm definitely into sci-fi. So again, this is kind of what I'm thinking, and how I'm kind of wrapping my mind around a logical reason to add cassettes to my collecting. So basically spoken word, music that I can't find elsewhere in other formats, and then kind of underground music is one area that I'd like to delve into also. But this all relies on being able to find a cheap tape deck. So I'm gonna have to keep checking back at Goodwill, and hopefully I can find one. 15 is like the most I'm willing to spend. I mean, I was totally gonna jump on this at $6.99, but for 20 bucks, I just don't know. But these were cheap, so it doesn't really matter, because all these were just $1. So, but anyway, pardon me. Yes. Yeah, so, I mean, what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear your thoughts on why you collect cassettes and how it fits into your vinyl collection, or your music collection, I should say, or just collection in general, because it doesn't necessarily have to be music, I guess. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and yeah, let me know. I'll post this on Facebook as a question, and we'll see what the response is, and it should be an interesting topic, because I know there's been some debate on there, like, why do you bother collecting cassettes? You know, us people that basically have just been collecting vinyl, it's like, vinyl's better. Yeah, so I'd love to hear, you know, all different kinds of opinions on this, and yeah. So again, we were just here chatting, talking about cassettes. This is going to be kind of a regular, like, vinyl discussion segment that I'm going to be having. Thank you for watching, especially if you stuck around the whole 20 minutes. And yeah, I will see you next time.